In the last few weeks, vegans on the internet have been really angry at me for calling myself AI vegan. I had some good reasons, they made some good points. This is a quick video to explain how my first internet pylon played. So when I first said I was going AI vegan, I didn't expect to catch so many people's attention. This wasn't a PR stunt or a positioning strategy. I didn't set out to start a viral marketing campaign and co-opt this terminology of veganism to raise the profile of my LinkedIn agency. It really sounds funny to me to express it like that. Like, none of this was intentional, but that's exactly what happened. So late last year, I was a generative AI power user, but I reached a point where this cognitive offloading was starting to make me feel just a lot dumber, like a lot less human. I'm a writer, and writing is thinking. And for me, offloading certain kinds of thinking, even with my human prompts in the loop, had made me feel like my mind was turning to mush. Like most great epiphanies, this one came to me while I was doing the dishes one Friday night. I sent a quick WhatsApp message to a friend. I want to go AI vegan, is all it said. This term AI vegan made intuitive sense to me because I was worried not only about the impact AI was having on my health as a consumer of AI slop. There is a growing field of research suggesting that this cognitive offloading to AI isn't good for us. It wasn't only that, I was also making an ethical choice. I'd educated myself on generative AI, and I'd started to get really concerned about the whole supply chain of this technology, how it's harming the people, the planet, and animals in various ways, from the human data workers in large language model development through to the power-hungry, super thirsty data centers that harm our natural ecosystems around the world. Aside from the personal atrophying effects, there was just this ethical concern as well. Of course, explaining all that to someone can get complicated. So this idea of AI vegan just seemed like useful shorthand. It wasn't just about abstaining from AI, but it was also engaging with these ethical questions around my information diet. In fact, it was flattering to the idea of what it means to be vegan in relation to the health and ethics of food systems. And as soon as I floated the term in my LinkedIn feed, I found there was a huge chunk of the population just as concerned as me about these broader impacts of generative AI on culture, on work, and on life as we know it. This AI vegan thing really started to pop off, especially on LinkedIn. AI veganism got featured in The Guardian, in The Conversation, which is a university publication, on podcasts and Twitter feeds all over. And it did reach vegan spaces as well. I somehow found myself at the epicenter of this spicy Reddit thread. It was started by Earthling Ed Winters, who's a vegan activist, and he really put me in the crosshairs on his Substack. He wrote an article called AI Vegans Are a Thing Now, apparently. So the Reddit thread oddly got like a bit weird, a bit rude and profane. And in this video, I'll just stick with what Winters has shared in his post. Winters called my AI vegan stance terrifically absurd encapsulation of the modern world. Horrified, frustrated, Winters pointed to my thinking as nothing more than a marketing tool for Great Chat, my LinkedIn content agency. To Winters, this was nothing more than a reductive, basic, attention-grabbing clickbait tactic. The article ends with a kind of death wish. He's hoping this is the last we hear of the term AI vegan. I've never met Ed, never spoken to Ed before. Really appreciate the sentiment. But AI vegan still makes sense to me. The criticism that Winters leveled at me, and by plenty of these angry Redditors, I think misses a few key details, and I want to explain them here. Firstly, they're not wrong to point out that I did post about going AI vegan on social media, and it did result in a significant amount of awareness and attention, but that was never the point of this. That was never my motivation for doing the thing or talking about the thing. It just took off, and that's really how social media algorithms. The sharp critique of my use of this term seems at odds to me with what Winters had actually said veganism stands for. So he wrote in his piece, in the same way that humanism is an ethical philosophy that prioritizes using reason and empathy when it comes to our treatment of one another, veganism is an ethical philosophy that does the same with non-human animals. Sure, call me a humanist. I fundamentally believe that the current suite of Gen AI tools have been built on and they continue to enable human exploitation. Whether it's workers in the developing world who are paid sub-living wages to go through and filter out the worst corners of the internet to figure out what goes into LLM knowledge bases, or the IP and the creative intelligence of millions of people whose work has just been hoovered up into the reams of information that LLMs are trained on. These are both two examples of exploitation of sentient beings. It's fundamental to the construction and operation of generative AI, and that's a concern. Then there's AI's negative impact on the climate crisis, on environments and ecosystems, where certainly the harm does extend to all animals, including humans. This isn't my opinion, it's the subject of ongoing research from scientists and journalists. Someone like Karen Howe and her instant best-selling book Empire of AI dives into this idea as well. So not using these tools really seemed in alignment to me with the ethical principles of veganism, in that we shouldn't exploit sentient beings for our own gain. Not only is exploitation part of the generative AI construction process, it actually seems to be part of the value proposition. The engagement optimized interface, the built-in prompts that are driving us to stay on platform. We've got big tech who's forcing us to adopt these tools by wedging them into all the tools that we're already using. These are all exploitative tactics used to keep us feeding the beast. And did you know, unless you've turned off the setting and you have a LinkedIn account, you are automatically opted in to allow LinkedIn to use your content and data to train its Gen AI models. That has happened without our knowledge, without our consent. Just wait until OpenAI and all these AI tools start using the data that you've shared with your ChatGPT therapist. They're going to start using that data against us in advertising. Just as milk doesn't come from a carton, these generative AI outputs don't just come out of thin air. Like our food, like our fashion, AI has a supply chain underpinning it. AI vegan, for me, is an intentional choice to denote these commonalities, to draw attention to this idea. So the Redditors going after me have thought deeply about their ethical choices. And in the same way, for me, quitting AI felt like something I could control, this step in the right direction I could actually take. Using vegan in the AI context is a reflection of my concern about what my brain consumes and where that material comes from. It's a nod to these negative externalities that are created in our system and in our world. Veganism was not intended to bait clicks or create outrage or minimize veganism in any way. And there are, in my opinion, several important parallels between the ethics of veganism and the ethics behind my decision to abstain from AI. The fact remains, the AI vegan idea made a lot of sense to a lot of people, and I'm really hopeful that this is a positive sign that maybe we aren't as far apart in our worldview as the algorithms would have us believe. When I saw this Reddit come out and the Substack article, I just couldn't help but dive into the comments on the Substack, and the comment section was awash. These comfortably anonymous users, they only reveal their first name. They've described my take as pure cringe, just idiotic, disrespectful, nonsense, and a lot more. There was one comment that stood out and got me thinking, and it wasn't a personal attack. It didn't frame me as a sinner for misusing the term vegan. It actually felt thoughtful, which was nice. Here's the comment from Earthling Ed's original Substack. The commenter said, AI sober would have made significantly more sense, especially as more evidence is found that consistent use of AI is changing brain activity and it mimics addiction. This was from a Reddit user called AM. That resonated me with a couple of reasons. So the first reason, this points to one of my key motivations for resisting the use of AI. As I wrote in an earlier essay, and you can find it on YouTube, about my AI vegan experiment, something's been nagging at me in the back of my mind for the whole year. This sinking feeling, this gradual slide into dependency. Willpower has never been a strong suit of mine, and novel technology is notoriously hard to avoid once it sinks its teeth in. So I felt myself sliding down this slippery slope, gradually having LLMs take over more and more significant chunks of my work. I wrote that about 4 months ago. And the second reason that this AI sober idea really resonates is based on a decision I made on the 1st of January 2023. So nearly 3 years ago, I made the choice to stop drinking alcohol. I did this because I realized I'd lost control of my consumption. I was drinking because it was a good day, because it was a bad day, drinking for the start of the week, for the end of the week, like to get over hump day. I was drinking numb bad feelings and amplify good feelings. I wasn't drinking much, but The thought of stopping drinking for 3 days felt like an eternity, felt like a stretch. My sleep was getting worse and worse. I was getting more and more lethargic. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I just had less and less energy to play with them and just be a parent. And so I realized I had to stop. And this year, I felt generative AI slowly atrophying my most important, powerful muscles: critical thinking, creative writing, and blue sky ideas. And the more I used AI, the fewer interesting thoughts I seemed to have. It was making me less effective. Like, it went from this helpful, reliable thought partner to a kind of thought dealer, like giving me my dopamine hit, giving me my next idea. So, at the risk of enraging the sober community, again, I am one of you. I'm now thinking of this as AI sober. Do I need a term to say that I'm not using AI? To be honest, like, it does help. It's a friendly way to start a conversation with people who aren't totally lost in the source of AI hype. I can say, yeah, I'm AI sober, and they get why. So thank you to AM, that commenter on Substack. I'm now AI sober, and that's settled. But this whole episode has also forced me to reflect on the state of online discourse and where we're at. So we have this increasing reliance on algorithms as gateways to information, and that's creating this tendency to flatten culture. Carl Chaker wrote about this in his book from 2024 called Filter World. And part of this is that it squashes nuance and it establishes these echo chambers. This flattening feels like the walls closing in all around us. In response, these human creators, like me, who want to be seen and heard outside their own bubble, we're getting nudged to develop increasingly more polarizing perspectives. It's an interesting case study. Like, this whole episode with me is an interesting case study of how the game is played. Like, I blindly managed to pierce through the echo chamber of the algorithms, my feed, and my audience, and I popped up in different spheres of conversation in the AI world, and a clash of perspective ensued. So if nothing else, this situation proves to me the importance of engaging our brains and making reasoned arguments. It's the one true way to evolve our thinking, to grow as people, and ultimately view the world with more empathy and understanding. It's true now more than ever in the age of AI tools, increasingly constrictive algorithms serving up our content and putting these blinkers on our brains. Making a reasoned argument, engaging other opinions, taking on board feedback and critique, and evolving my thinking has played out in probably the most public example of this in my life over the last few weeks. I was a little bummed out for being so misunderstood, absolutely. But I'm trying to remind myself this is what it means to think critically. This is what it means to put thoughts out into the world and to shape ideas that matter. It's also, after all, what it means to be sober, to live in your own brain under the influence of your own thinking, and celebrating what it means to be gloriously, openly, honestly human. In other words, hello, I'm Joe, and I'm AI sober.